computer audio. And
oh yeah, it did connect. Thank you. And I'll just mute. And I don't know if I can mute everything, but.
All right. No, start video. Hello?
You're going to hear an echo because of me. So don't worry about that. I'm going to mute mine in just a second.
Anne, are you there?
Oh, hold on. It's not going to work.
Is that better? Okay, that's better.
So yeah, that's perfect. I'm going to keep on mute because I wanted to be able to look at comments and stuff.
Okay, I see a couple extra people coming in. Where do I put my... Sorry, guys, I'm trying to figure all this out.
Yeah, you need it. You need the lesson.
Okay. Hello.
Oh yeah, that looks fantastic.
I don't know if you... I see Christine. Hi, Christine. Hi, Anne. I haven't met you, but I've heard a lot about you from Sandy, if you can hear me. I am trying to figure out, do you know where my waiting room is? Will it come right here?
Oh, it's not working.
All right. Hi, guys. We're on. I'm still admitting people. We have a couple minutes left, so sorry if I have nothing to say yet.
Wow, that jumped up fast. That's awesome. Like in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because how are we going to share these pictures unless we email every.
Again, welcome everybody. We're going to start in just a few minutes. We're waiting for just a few extra minutes while people click in. I have to like accept them into the waiting room or whatever. So it'll be just a few more minutes before we start officially, and thank you for hanging tight. All right, again, welcome everybody. We're still waiting for the waiting room, and we are currently uploading. My dear friend Sarah is here with me, and she's helping me upload some documents. So if you want to pull those up on your computer, we'll talk about some of those later, but she's going to put some of those on the chat line right now as we just wait for people to keep joining for the next, I think we'll start in about 5 minutes. All right, again, we're just waiting. I know I've said this a bunch of times, but there's a lot more people. We're just waiting for everybody to join. I'm gonna wait till about 7:35 before we start, and then we'll get going. So hi to everybody.
Hello.
All right, welcome. We are still working on a few things, getting everybody in that wants to be in. All right, so about one more minute and we'll get started. Welcome, everybody.
Like on your screen, is there like a...
There you go. All right, I'm going to ask if anybody is not muted. I would love for everybody to be muted just so we don't get any background noise. And I might mute it for you if we have too much noise. That way we don't get distracted. All right. I am going to go ahead and get started. All right. Okay, well, thank you guys for being here. My name is Allie, and I think most of you know me, but some of you are friends of friends. So I have been a homeschool mom for 5 years, going on 6. My dear friend Sarah is sitting right next to me. She's helping me out with the waiting room and some other stuff that just like helping with the questions. So if you see her pop on a lot, she's helping me out. So if you do have questions, speaking of questions, feel free to write them in the chat box, whatever you want to call it. And that is going to just help us at the end if we have anything to answer for you. And then I encourage you to get out a pen and paper because we're going to fly through this. There's a lot to cover. So be ready. So just a little layout of what we're going to do. We're going to start. I'm going to just share with you a little bit about me and my homeschool journey. And then the big question, where do I start? What do I do to begin this? Then we're going to move on to how to schedule your day and your year and your weeks and all the different types of scheduling. We're going to talk through curriculum. We're going to quickly go into behavior and then keeping you sane as a mom, because that is the big golden question here. It is my privilege to be here. I feel so blessed. I think the Lord just kind of orchestrated all this with my dear friend Sandy, who's also helped put this on, and just asking me to talk to a couple of you, and that 5 or 6 turned into 10 and then turned into 20. And I think now we're at 37 or whatever. So I know that the need is out there. We're all stressed and very chaotic right now with our world. And so just being willing to, or being available to share with you is really a blessing. I know that we're all from different religious backgrounds. We're from different beliefs and thoughts and philosophies. So take what you want, leave what you want. This is kind of how I do it. There's no prescription for how it should be done. I'm just describing what I do. So just take that with a grain of salt. And then the other thing is, a lot of you guys are doing online. A lot of you are doing through public school. A lot of you are choosing to jump to homeschool, all of which are great. Just keep that in mind, that some of this may not apply to you depending on what you are doing. So let's all take a deep breath. We can do this. We're all new to this, or a lot of us are. Some of us have many years, but it is an absolute privilege and blessing to be able to be home with our kids and homeschool them. Our attitude sets the tone. When we are stressed and overwhelmed and talk negatively about this, our kids are going to feed off of that. So if the first thing that we do is just start with a positive attitude, that's the best thing we can do for our kids. And speaking positivity and being excited about this will go a long way for them. So just a little bit about my story, who I am. Again, I've been homeschooling for 5 years, going on 6. I can't believe, I was trying to do the math. I thought it was like 4, but it just keeps growing because my kids keep getting older. I was the mom that said I would never homeschool. Never. I was not the kid that loves school. I was a remedial reader. I couldn't put phonics together. I'm still learning phonics. My kids know it now better than me, thanks to Sandy Tarosian. And I had to work harder than most people in my class. So if you think you're not smart enough, or if you think you can't do it, know that you can. And the great thing is we can learn with our kids. So not to be intimidated by just trying to overdo the information, but knowing that we can be students right along with them. I'm passionate about homeschooling. I really believe that our generation of moms got out just in time of public school. I don't mean to bash or anything, but know that there's a lot going on with what's being taught in history and even the sexual education that's going on. So I really am passionate about homeschool, and I couldn't have said that 2 or 3 years ago, but today I stand in a very different place. I would say for both of those things, if you need more information, contact my great friend Sandy Tarosian. She has a lot of real information. She's done the hard work and the research with all of that. So she would be more than happy to share with you about those kinds of things. And I just really love learning with my children. I never thought I would feel the same or this strongly about learning alongside of them. So I love being curious. I love going on walks and looking at leaves and going and looking in the sky and seeing the stars and seeing how God knit all of it together, and just the beauty of how history flows and how the Bible ties into this, that, and everything. And being curious and being a lifetime learner is really the best thing you can teach your child, to always ask questions about everything they're experiencing. So that has been a real gift to me. I don't think I was ever quite like that before I started being curious with my child. So moving on, where to start? So this is the big question everybody has. Where to start? I would suggest going to hslda.org, and Sarah's going to put that in the comment box. This is the legal homeschool department for California and every state, and you can go and see what your rights are. When we don't know our rights and we call the schools and they say we can do this or that, they may not understand our rights as homeschool moms. So if you're questioning whether to jump full into homeschool, just really go to the legal department. Again, Sarah put it in the comments, so you can write that down and go from there. Unfortunately, I think charter schools in California are closed right now if you are considering jumping into charter school, because they passed policies that defunded schools, so they can't open up to more students. All that to say, you may, if you consider doing homeschool, just to throw this out there, you may have to file an affidavit, which is not that difficult to do. It's not due till October. You have plenty of time to research all of that. And yeah, so that is something that we will also link to in our comments. And there may be another video about that coming up, or you can research it online. So that's where to start. Just knowing what your rights are, and then going to your school after that. The second thing that I have done poorly in the past is keep it simple. We are inundated with 1,000 million gazillion things. There's Pinterest, there's all these websites, everything. And you don't need all of that. You could keep it simple and not overthink it and not overdo it. And all you don't need a classroom, you don't need desks. You just need a box, a file box with all your students' work, and a few things, a few resources. We have the library, and you could work at your kitchen table every day, shove it in a box, put it on the side of the table, and then pull it out the next day. So don't think that you have to set up this whole environment for homeschooling. You can keep it super simple. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to say about that. We're going to move into schedule, and I do 3 types of schedules. So as you're looking at your school year, I do a full school year schedule, a weekly schedule, and then a daily schedule. So again, we're going to link up to this, but this is my 2020-2021 schedule.
So here's the second link.
if you go to the second link, maybe at the,
posted at the top.
she posted it at the top, you could see this. But it goes through how many weeks. I work off of a 30-week school year. Everybody's different. Some math curriculums are 40 weeks, and so you may work off of a 40-week school year. I like to cut it short and keep my school year brief. I fit in, all my holidays are in pink, and then I know what days I'm on and off and can plan accordingly. This isn't in stone. Moses did not write this, so I happily modify when I need to. I add days, I take days away. I break every 6 weeks so that I stay sane. Those breaks look a little different. I'm not taking the whole week off, but I'll intentionally do something fun or make it really fun for our family. So that is my year plan. I know where I need to be at Christmas. If I'm not there at Christmas, I don't take 4 weeks off. I take 3 weeks off or 2 weeks off or whatever, or I add them on to the end of the year. Then my weekly schedule, I've done this a couple different ways. So
you can go to the next link. Is that in here?
Great. So the next link you can open up at the top of the chat box. If you scroll to the top, you can open up. There's a couple things. I've done it this way, so I hope you guys can kind of see this. Again, it's in the links. This I print off each week for my kids. I slip it into a little plastic cover in a folder. And then any loose paper they have for that week, I stick in there for them to do, whether it's spelling or reading or whatever, or math. Each subject, so it's the days of the week, and each subject, this is what I know that they have to accomplish that week. It makes it super simple. I use this when I had, when I worked, and I had a teacher coming in, a college student coming in to help facilitate my school day, the days that I worked. And so she would just pick this up and know what the day held, and all the work would be inside of here. So this is a great option. Currently, I am using this. My charter school, Inspire, gives us these books. I go on here and I do all their assignments. My kids are in third and fourth grade. I don't know, third and fourth grade. And so I want them to kind of take responsibility. I'm toying with the idea of having them fill in some of the blanks and kind of modify their schedule throughout the week, and kind of take responsibility for getting their stuff done. There's little check boxes along the side, and so they know to check off what they've done. And so this is what I use this week, or this year. There's a spot for their spelling list. This is actually last year. This is what I'm using next year. It doesn't have to be this fancy. It could just be a simple Excel spreadsheet. It helps when you're not working on the fly. It helps when you have a plan. You don't have to always go by that plan, but it's much better to not be trying to wing it in the moment. So I spend my Friday afternoons. This is a great chance for you to, I have art class on Friday afternoons. It's the best thing I ever did. I spend an hour while they're in art class prepping for next week. They're busy. I'm doing my prep work, and it makes it so that I don't do anything on the afternoon. You got to protect, or on the weekend, you got to protect your weekend. So I prep all during the week for the next week so that I truly have a break, which helps keep it sane. Okay, so for my actual day, I start my day at 7:30. I start my day at 7:30 because my kids wake up way too early. It's like far too early for any human to wake up, but they do. And so the second they touch a toy or get distracted, it makes it far more difficult to re-engage them. So we start at 7:30, but that doesn't mean you have to. They have to get dressed. They have to eat breakfast, brush their teeth, make their bed, as if they were walking out to a day of public school. When we have a schedule for them, the kids really do better and they thrive. And if you Keep them knowing what to expect. It makes your day better and more sane. It also helps them to be able to take ownership and be kind of growing in their maturity. So I love that they have to get dressed and they have to look presentable. And it just helps us to kind of be businesslike about our day. After our 7:30 start, I'm in the schoolroom and we start with morning time. This looks different for every family. It will look different for yours. It is a time where we sit together and we do a devotional and we do all of our group work. So for us, I have kids that are close in age, so we do our language lesson together, maybe our spelling lesson together if it correlates with both of them. We will study a piece of art. I'll show you more later, but I'll pull out a piece of art and we'll talk about it and we'll just notice things and I'll ask questions, or we may listen to a piece of music. There's some great morning time curriculums. I don't think you have to go that far as to like order a curriculum for it. We will review memory work. We're part of a co-op. We can talk about that later again. Claritas or Classical Conversations, something along those lines, where we have weekly memory work that we're memorizing. And that we will review, we'll look at maps, anything that we can do together. I clump in the morning so that after that we can break apart and do our own thing. So we take a break. I set a timer, 10 to 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you've lost your child. So 10 to 15 minutes, unless you specifically designate it, is a great amount of time. If they're little boys, they probably need to run around. I send them outside to go play, or maybe we'll walk around the block or whatever that looks like. But after that break that we've set, I usually give them a snack. So I've prepared a snack and I do my read aloud. And a read aloud, for those of you who don't know, you get a great book and you just read it out loud to your kids. It can be on the couch. It can be while they're eating their snack. It is one of the most cherished times. From a remedial reader who secretly never loved books. I love reading to my kids, and read alouds are great. We started with Little House on the Prairie and I couldn't even wait for them. I had to finish the books without them, which is saying something. So I love read aloud time. I recommend it with any age. You can have your high schoolers read to your little kids or whatever that looks like. So that's after break. And then after that, we usually break off into our individual subjects. This is where I have one kid doing reading, one kid doing their math lesson. And it gets a little tricky with scheduling, but they're doing their subjects that are individual to them that we can't do all together. So that will take us to about lunch. Hopefully we get everything done before lunch because I love the afternoons free. But if not, we'll eat lunch and then we'll come back. And usually the afternoons, I have some sort of special project or a class outside of the home, like we did a Ninja Warrior class or an art class on Fridays or a gymnastics class or something along those lines where they're with other kids. Almost every day they're with other kids. And so that'll be in the afternoon, or a science project or whatever that looks like. And so yeah, I think that's my daily schedule. So I've had a lot of questions about what you do for kids that are different ages. When you have a preschooler and a fourth grader, or a second grader and a third grader, I would start by making a list, two lists. One, what can they do independently? And what can they do, or what do they require you in order to accomplish? So when you have those lists, then you can kind of pair, like kid A, my Jed, he does math lesson with me while Riley looks at a book or reads to herself, okay? Because he requires me to give the lesson. She can do her reading on her own. So I pair subjects with each child that they can do, one independent, one dependent, and that just helps the flow of our day. Doesn't always work that way. Some examples of independent work for my kids are sometimes math, it depends. Spelling, when they're practicing the next couple days, they can do that independently. Copy work, I don't know, I never knew what copy work was until I homeschooled, but copy work is something great for your younger age kids. They can write, they just copy what's written above, and they work on form and handwriting and muscle strength on their fingers. That's a great one for them to do, and there's so much benefit from that. And typing is a good one for your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th graders and up. They can practice their typing. If you have iPads and they do like a crab math or some sort of prodigy program or whatever, they could do that while the other kid reads to you aloud or whatever. So those are some examples of that. If your list isn't long of independent things, say you have younger kids in the preschool, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade age, find stuff. Pull out the Magna-Tiles, okay? Pull out the Play-Doh. They can do hands-on physical things while you're working with your other kid. And if you have like, say, 5 or 6 boxes of things, of activity boxes for them to do, maybe 1 per week, and this is great for younger toddler age kids as well, that will help you know, okay, well, I'm doing math with kid A, I'm going to have kid B with the Magna-Tiles, so that you're able to just know in your mind what that child's doing. You don't have to think of it right in the moment. Let's see. Okay, dependent work idea, or examples of dependent work where I need to be there. We do almost all of our writing together unless I'm giving them like a 5-minute writing drill or something like that. I sit with the kids during writing. Any new lessons, Mondays always go longer. So Mondays are our days where we're getting their new spelling lesson, their new math lesson, their new writing assignment, and those days always go much longer than other days. So on Mondays, I know that it's going to just be a little bit more, I'm going to have to work so much harder at being with both kids and planning out that day a little bit more. So I always do as much as possible together. If your 4th grader is getting, 3rd-ish grade spelling words, but really getting the rules, that's okay. They will grow and they will learn, especially if they have the rules. So language can be together. I did first language lessons with my 2nd and 3rd grader. And when we'd come to something where they'd have to write something, I had my 3rd grader write 2 sentences and my 1st grader write 1 or half of 1 or whatever. So you can modify work as well. All right. So in terms of rules I think it's pretty important. I have some funny ones. Okay. So my kids, they count out loud in their head, and that's just like something that's really silly, but it kind of throws the whole day off if they count out loud. So I try to like think through what those things might be and set them up in the front of my day, especially when they're working side by side in the same area. Also math, I think it's always good to have them circle it. So from the start, say, hey, I know you're going to be doing this math work today. If you could circle the problems you don't know, and then we'll work through those at the end. I'm going to be working with your brother on this, and so I will know that at the end I'll give you as much time as you need. I think that helps them ease their mind so they're not constantly interrupting you while you're working with the other child. For the littles, your toddler age kids, again, have those busy boxes ready for them. Nap time's a great time to get a lot of stuff done, so your schedule may look different when you have little kids in the house. I know we had to do that a couple years ago, and it kind of changed our whole schedule, but nap time was a wonderful time. Try to limit the amount of video time they have. You'll be surprised at how much they can do within a couple weeks of learning to sit in a high chair and color, or play with tiles independently, the Magna-Tiles or Play-Doh or whatever it is. You will be very surprised at how much they actually can sit and do when they practice it. So don't give up after a week when they're complaining and they want to watch TV or whatever. stick with it and they'll really grow in that. And then my favorite for my younger kids and even my older kids now is to put on a tape on video, or a audio tape, or like Audible, some sort of book that they can listen to while they're playing or coloring or whatever, and it'll keep their attention much longer. And then get help. If you have grandmas in town or friends, ask for help. Ask them to take one morning a week. Monday mornings are always my busiest mornings. Ask them to come and just play with the little kid or whoever, and don't be afraid to ask when you need help or you feel like it's overwhelming, because it's a lot of work. It's very hard and tricky, but you could do it. And then always, it's okay to hire out as well if you have a subject. I'll get to that later, but if you have a subject you feel like is too tricky and you don't want to do it, and it's chemistry for your high schooler, that's okay to find somebody who can do it. Okay, so we are moving on to curriculum options. I know a lot of you are planning on still using the public school stuff, so hear me out and maybe something will catch your eye, and you can always supplement what your kid is learning in school. You can supplement with something that I've shared. So I've said this before, but use the library. It's a wonderful resource. You could get lost in the library. They have stuff on everything. I hadn't been in the library since I was in elementary school or maybe high school until I started homeschooling. So that is a great resource. If you are wanting they have curriculum for homeschool that is an entire homeschool. Do you have your book? So this is a great example where Sarah's gonna help me. She did it with her child. Oh, she's gonna hold it. Okay, yeah. So each week you have your students' work to do. So it's gonna go through spelling, math, any assignments, math work, timeline. So there's various curriculums. Some are just history, some are history, spelling, English, everything. We're gonna link up a list of all the different stuff that you could do, all the options, not all of them, but a lot of them, a lot that we have experienced or run through of options. And we'll link those up on the chat box. So there are options where you do everything comes in one binder and it's very plug and play. So that's great for those who don't want to pick their actual own stuff. Abeka is one. The Good and the Beautiful, Book Shark, Sunlight.
They might have lost you. I still see you. Let's see. I would just do a check.
Can everybody see me?
You're back.
Okay, am I back? Okay, sorry. So I was just saying that the curriculum options for an all-inclusive curriculum. So you don't pick a separate math and a separate writing and a separate reading. You are picking one curriculum and it has writing, reading, math, books, history, geography, everything all together. So there's plenty of options on all of those. We're going to link up to that in our chat box.
We're just linking some.
Some of those options, not all of them, but some of the options, because there's hundreds. And I know a lot of us in this chat group have experience with those. I personally have chosen each subject based on what works best for my family, but you can make it all in one. So, all right, I think I've said this before, but don't go on Pinterest, please. You can lose yourself and you can feel so inadequate and you can feel like how many Pinterest fails have I done? Like way too many to count. So that's not where real people live. We are just, if you're gonna go, know exactly what you want, find a science project that is about the solar system for the 4th grade, and don't get lost. Set a time limit for the project. So that's just a little thing, a pet peeve. For math, I use a program called MathUC. I'm just going to show you what I use. This is not what everybody uses. This is what I use, and it's one option. One thing I love about it, when I was brand new to this, there is a DVD. It shows you exactly, you plug it in, the teacher comes up, he does the whole lesson. It's organized. I've ripped out the pages for this coming school year. There's A through F, and I assign like AB one day on Mondays, CD, and so it's like 2 or 3 pages a day, and they do it, and it's simple. There's a test booklet. I don't have to teach. I don't have to think about what lesson to do or kind of fiddle with it. I think some of the downsides is there's a few little baby gaps that that I don't think are fully there. So there's a little bit more stringent curriculums, but I love that I didn't have to come up with the teaching myself, because I'm not a credentialed teacher, so I don't know how to do teaching math, but it's a DVD. So that's what I use. For a couple others that a lot of my friends use are Singapore and Saxon. So those are a couple other good options. For reading, I know I've mentioned Read Aloud already. Again, I cannot say enough about how much Read Aloud is so valuable to your homeschool day, to your bonding, your connection, your imagining together, your dreaming together, and it's just one of the most, I'd never imagined that would be one of my favorite parts of a school day. I do 30 minutes of reading for each kid a day. As they get older, you can increase it. If they love reading, you probably don't have to monitor how much they're reading. I have one of each. One loves it, one not so much. So I do 15 minutes alone, 15 minutes to me. And then you're going to want to have them reading below, at, and above their reading level. So not below their reading level would be just by themselves in bed at night or whatever. At the reading level or above their reading level is something that they would do with you, or you're helping them work through words and they're maybe sounding them out on their own, or, you know, that's just a simple way of thinking about it. But they should be doing all 3 every day, below, at, and above. And then I love to tie reading into whatever I'm learning. So if we're learning about astronomy, I'm going to pull books from the library or wherever, borrow them from your friends about the moon. Or if we're learning about America, we're going to read about Abraham Lincoln, and there's plenty of books about all those, so that you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And then you can get a variety of things. So it doesn't all have to be just factual, but it can be poetry or all the different types of reading. So there's that. If you have younger kids, K1 to preschool, that kind of age, we used All About Reading. I think it's a really great program for it being simple. There's scripts for mom to read and kid to respond with. It's interactive, and it ties into spelling. It ties into other lessons, but it's called All About Reading, and it's a great younger age reading curriculum. Writing. Okay, this one I always struggled with the younger grades, if I'm very honest. I didn't really know what to do with them until like the 3rd grade. So I would pull this or that. I've had lots of friends just say the best thing they can do is just write. So copy work is a great thing, where they're, again, I showed you this already once, I'll show it to you again, where they're writing down stuff. What's important to know is it's hard to think about what you're going to write, put your hand on the paper, form the letters correctly, capitalize the word, put the punctuation mark. That's so much for a child that's in 1st grade to think about, or 2nd grade, or kindergarten. You want them to have some stamina for writing, and that's where copy work comes in. You can have them draw a picture and label label the parts of the picture, tree, this, that, and or write one sentence and then illustrate it, write a paragraph. So that's what I kind of did and fumbled my way through. It was never my strong suit in the earlier grades. Come to third grade and fourth grade, I've used IEW. It's called Institute for Excellent Writing. His name is Andrew Poudois. It's a fabulous curriculum. It's a little complicated. If you're new to it, you know, it may be something that you ask somebody about or have somebody come alongside you. We've used Bible Heroes or All Things Fun and Fascinating. This year we're doing US history, and it kind of has them, it gives them the information. You break it down into a keyword outline, and then they rebuild the information. So what they're not having to do is come up with the information, which I think is really hard. I think my wisest homeschool mentors have always told me the best thing you can do is help and help more and keep helping. So if they need advice on which adjective to use, give them 3 options, and not the more we walk alongside them, the more they see eloquent writing, they see interesting sentence structure, and you can't help too much. So that's not from my brain, that's advice people have given me, and I'm just entering those really tricky writing years. So we'll see how this year goes, but that's the advice given to me. All right, for grammar, I am a huge fan of something called first language lessons. I started with my kids when they were in first grade. I've always done the same year for each child. So I had a first grader and a preschooler, and I did first language lessons 1, then a second and first, and I did first language. So I did them, I grouped them together. First language lessons, I learned more about language in teaching my first grader language than I did in 15 years of schooling. So it's wonderful. It's easy. It incorporates beautiful poems that they get to memorize. It takes 15 minutes a day in the earlier years, maybe a little bit longer. You're going to learn stuff. So I'm going to just show you this page. What I love is that you don't have to know anything. You literally don't have to know anything. It has a script. So if I'm the instructor, I say, a noun is the name of a person, place, thing, or idea. A boy is a person. The word boy comes from noun. A cousin is a person. The word cousin is a noun. A noun is the name of a person. Can you say that with me? A noun is the name of it. So I look really smart, but I'm just reading a paper. And so it's wonderful because you'll learn with your kids. It's a great program. It's called First Language Lessons. They do poem memorization and all kinds of stuff. Once you get to third grade, there's a workbook I highly recommend. It has sentence diagramming, copy work, dictation where you're saying what they write, and then they'll write it down and try to get all the spelling right and everything like that. So I highly recommend this. So that is language. For spelling, I have traditionally in the past always used All About Spelling. All About Spelling goes with All About Reading. It's a wonderful program. It, again, is the same type of instructor, and then it gives you what to say, and then student, and it gives them what the correct answer should be. So it has all the rules spelled out. They have little tiles that you can have the kids build words. It's very, very hands-on and a really great program, especially if you don't necessarily know the spelling rules. This year I switched to something called Spelling Plus. I felt like I kind of had a handle on a lot of the rules, or at least my kids did. And it has just more of a list and with the rule with it. I am doing both my third grader and my fourth grader the same spelling list because I have my third graders a great speller and my fourth graders not as great of a speller, and which is okay, but they're learning the same rules, and if they don't know all the same words, that's okay. It's gonna make my life easier, and so that is something I hold on to. They also have something called Dictation Plus that goes right along with it, and it gives you sentences to dictate to them so that they can hear and write, and that's just another wonderful thing. So Spelling Plus, or All About Spelling are the ones I recommend. There's more out there. Those are just two that I have experience with. All right, science. So I have a couple science things. Some of my favorite books are these God's Design books. This year we're doing chemistry. In the past I've done anatomy, or there's plant science or weather. They have a ton of books. It is printed by Ken Ham, who is the Creation Museum guy. He did built the Ark, and so it's very beautifully written. It really ties it around, you're learning about the periodic table, but you're learning how God created the elements of the earth and built the earth around these things. And so it's not just science, it's science through the lens of how God created the world or the body or the weather and the patterns. And it's just really cool how they've done it. So I love these. They're simple, they're short lessons. The lessons are only about 1 page long. There's often beautiful pictures or little biographies on people. Yeah, there's a science experiment, lots to do. We've also used Apologia, which is another great one, and there's so much out there. If you kind of had a direction you want to go, again, I can help, or I have a lot of people who can help with resources that way. Typing, we use typing.com. Typing.com is easy. I also use Mavis Beacon. That's what I learned, 20 years ago, how I learned typing, and it shows, they have games and it shows their hands. So that's a good one for that. And then for history, I have 2 recommendations. We've always used Story of the World since the time the kids were little. Again, it's Story of the World, and it is a 4-part, they have DVDs or CDs. That's what those things are called. We don't listen to those much anymore, but they have CDs and a read aloud book that you don't, it's the same thing. So I always listen to the CDs, and a workbook that helps with it. Story of the World is wonderful. It's the story of the world through people. So it's not just going to be the facts about World War II or the facts about the Songhai or dynasty or whatever. It's going to be about the person and about their life and what they did and how they carried water to the well. And so it's very captivating for kids. They really enjoy listening to it. We'd listen to it in the car rides to the beach or wherever we're going. And then there's a workbook with it that you can do fun things, interactive map stuff and stuff like that. The other history one is called Veritas Press. I did it for the first time this last year. It's wonderful. It's very intense if you haven't had children who have been exposed to history. So beware if your kids have not had a great exposure, or if they're younger. I would say if they haven't been in some sort of history program before, I would say stick to 4th or 5th grade for this, but it's every day. It's going to be 30 or 40 minutes of videos and interactive stuff and maps, and it's super in-depth. I learned a ton. I love it. Again, it's called Veritas Press, great for the upper grades. So that was a lot of information on curriculum and not even half of what you could learn. But again, just remember to keep it simple and don't overwhelm yourself. Don't feel like you have to go out and find everything right away. It's going to be okay. And if you need more help, we're all here for you. I just want to talk a little bit about community. Yes.
Can I jump in and take
Yes.
like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sarah's going to jump in.
So you guys just kind of got bombarded with a lot of information right there. And can you guys hear me okay? Because I'm going to use her computer so we don't get feedback here. And I'm going to also turn my video off because that's weird. So please post any questions and we will touch on them at the end. Allie wanted to just give you a little synopsis or a couple examples in each category. So really, when you go to homeschool your kid, you need to pick one thing for history, you pick one thing for math, you pick one thing for writing. Writing will include actual writing, spelling, maybe cursive or maybe typing, whatever you decide. So that's all you're going to do is you want to go and ask yourself, okay, what are the main topics I need to address with my child? And then there's so much out there. You pick what works for you. And there are a lot of examples on the internet. So you just need to look through a few of the lessons and determine, is this a good fit for my child? And is it a good fit for me? Meaning, is there a lot of prep time to this? I cannot do a lot of prep time, so I don't choose those. Like Allie showing us the first language lessons, that was the biggest breath of fresh air for me this year because there was zero prep on my end. I literally open it and read verbatim, and that's how I teach it. Math, it depends on the math program. We use Saxon. There usually isn't much prep. I hired out a tutor to do that with my daughter this year. It was awesome. I didn't have to do anything with her. So just like what Allie said, if you have older kids or even subjects you don't want to teach, hire out a tutor. Okay, that is a-okay. That is no issue. And yeah, so post any questions that you have. Time is precious. She wants to get through as much as she can, and she is recording this, so you can go back and watch. It can feel like a different language, but all of you are fully capable of doing that.
Hey, this is Christy. I was wondering if I could say something real fast.
Sure.
So one important note, I think, is that most of these things are either just kind of a universal, they're great for kids at every level, or things like first language lessons and the dictation plus, those kind of all have you find the point where your child can comfortably start.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, in a lot of those programs, there are assessment pieces built in. So don't feel like you have to pick the right grade before you can do anything. It'll walk you through figuring out where your kid should be in each subject.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christy. I
Sure.
appreciate that. All right, so we were moving into community, and then just to look ahead, again, we're going to go through behavior, and I think that was it, and then questions. So I think one of the misnomers about homeschool is that you're not in community, and I think that is could be something from the past, but there are so many people out there. We are with people every day, and it is so important to find your people. Find your people that you can come to in tears, that you can text at 9:23 and say, pray for me. I want to bite my children's head off. And they will pray for you. Those are the people that you need to have around. You need to have those ladies that are going to encourage you, that are going to just help you through the ups and downs of homeschool. This is, for me, I happened upon it and chose it. For a lot of you, this has been chosen for you, and it's not maybe something that you would have done otherwise. And so just know that you need people. You need to be honest. It is good, bad, and ugly. It is there are days where you get nothing done because everybody's crying. There are days where I'm crying because I don't know, everything happened wrong, and I need 8 cups of coffee to get going. And so I just encourage you guys to find your group. Find your 1, 2, 3, 4 ladies that you can have really honest, true, like, I don't have this all together. I need you to tell me it's going to be okay, because right now I want to scream. There are really great days too, but you got to have the community just to encourage you. I can't tell you how many times I finally came out with like, oh my gosh, my child they're just not listening. And somebody goes, oh my gosh, mine too. And then you feel like, wow, I am not alone. I actually thought my child was the only one on the earth who can't hold a pencil correctly, but you're not alone. So community is huge. And Also involving your husband or your family or your household. I know this is a little tricky it's been tricky at times for me because we haven't always seen eye to eye on all of it, but including them where they can, saying, hey, can you read with so-and-so tonight? Or just telling them not just the bad parts of your day, not just all the behavioral issues, but the blessings. I think that was part of what won my husband over to this was really talking about all the rich parts of our day. So make sure that you are including them in the process, and then know what fills your cup. I think that's the other part of community is, for me, it's some alone time, some podcasts, some coffee, some really good, strong coffee, and like no stimulation. For others, it might be tea with friends or whatever. So know what fills your cup and fill your cup. When our cups are full, we overflow with goodness, virtue, and beauty. And so if your cup is empty and you're stressed and you're exhausted, what's going to come out is not pretty. And I can attest to that because I have been there, and I am going to be there because that's just life, right? So keeping it real, fill your cup. If you are a God-fearing woman, you need Jesus every morning. You need to ask him for help and wisdom and patience. And the most refining process in my entire life has been homeschooling. You see the best and worst of yourself in every moment. So know that you need to have a full cup to give your kids the best. All right. And I highly recommend a nap like every day after school. So every day, 10 minutes, close your eyes, put a pillow over your face and sleep it off. Whatever the day looked like, sleep it off for 10 minutes. That's like a standard. Okay, behavior. So this is, I know a lot of you have asked me about this. This is one of the hardest parts of homeschool. Your kids are going to test you because you're their mom and not their teacher, especially if they're coming from maybe a public school setting where they're not used to you telling them what to do all the time. This is hard every year, but I tell you it gets easier every year because they know our process. So for all of you that think after the spring semester I could never do this, well, know that everybody was stressed from March to whenever school ended, and it was a horribly less than ideal situation. So if you have behavioral issues, it can only get better because you're going to set yourself up and your family up for success, and you can do this. I set the standard at the beginning of the year. I tell them what to expect. If we're doing anything different, anything fun, or like this year I'm incorporating grades for the first time. I'm going to just set all of that up at the beginning. Hey, if you guys need to use the restroom, I know this is your house, but why don't you ask me permission first before you walk up and, leave the class while I'm talking or something. So just kind of set those things up. I've had moms who put on an apron or something that kind of distinguishes, like, I'm a mom now, but I'm going into the classroom and now I am a teacher. So they put on a kitchen apron that helps them distinguish the two. So those are just some tips for the beginning of the school year. And I think, honestly, in my experience, most of our stressors throughout the day have started with me. If I bring stress into the day, if I am a taskmaster, if I am just barking out like, okay, we need to do this. Why aren't you here? What are you? And I'm so focused on getting the things done, that really overflows into my kids. So if my kids are reacting in any certain way, I think as I've matured in my homeschooling life, I will start to ask myself, what do I look like right now? Am I stressed? Do I have 65 other things that I have to do today that are so high on my list that I'm projecting that onto my kids? So start by reflecting on your own self. Walk away. That's a great bit of wisdom I will give you. Say, hey guys, even though it's 8:14 and we've only been here for 44 minutes, we're going to take a break. And we're going to walk, I'm going to walk away and I'll be back in 10 minutes and just ask the Lord for help. You got to do that. It's changed my world, because sometimes he'll give you that nugget that you need to hear, like, well, she's crying because she is totally freaked out about spelling the word wrong. And it has nothing to do with me personally. It has nothing to do with the fact that her life is over and she's ruined everything or whatever she's spitting at you. It's her fear or frustration or whatever. So ask for wisdom, and the Lord will provide it. And know that if you slow down and use slow, quiet words, it is 100% better than raising your voice. I'm a recovering yeller. So you're not alone. If you yell, don't feel guilty. Just go apologize. And that's another thing that I would like to say is, when we have those moments with our children where I've wronged them or I've said something, and even though if they've wronged me 1,000 times, if we can hold them and say, man, I know you're crying and you've been crying a lot today. It's a hard day, isn't it? And Jed, I love you, and we're in this together, and I'm learning and you're learning, and we're trying to figure all this out. It's hard, isn't it? And I'm on your team, buddy. Jed, I want to be on your team, and know that I'm for you. And even though I don't always say it right, I'm for you, and I want this for you, and I'm willing to put in the hard work to figure it out. And if you can talk like that to your child and encourage them and help them see that I don't have it all figured out and we're going to work on this together, I just noticed a huge difference in my momentum and in my ability to help them, they flip their lid, help them to come back into reality. And that physical touch and contact, especially with your younger kids who are frustrated and feeling overwhelmed, that's going to help them know that you still love them, and this is not about them personally, and they're accepted. And so really see, if they're crying, I always put them in my lap, even my 4th grade boy. Don't tell him. But I say, come here, buddy, let me hold you. And it really changes the dynamic. So, all right, let me just look at my notes. I recommend putting your phone away, putting your computer away, and not being distracted. So as we think about behavior and us being in one place and another place at the same time, I think a lot of that's tied in. If I'm doing too much, they're noticing that, and they're going to try to get away with more. Okay, incentives. Some people think they don't need incentives, and that's great. I have done both. I am not very good at following through with my incentives, but I at least start the year with incentives. I find out what motivates them. If it's candy, if it's the zoo, if it's a new book, I'll buy them. We've done like little tickets that I give them, and then they can buy stuff out of a treasure box. I try to do fun Fridays and just make each week have something fun to look forward to. Whether I'm making pancakes and bacon or something simple like that, or we do a field trip or whatever it looks like. But Fridays I try to make especially fun. I do pajama days where, like, maybe once a month or every couple weeks I say, hey, today's a pajama day, and then it's like super crazy fun or whatever, just little things like that they feel like they've earned, and that's exciting to them. Another great one that I heard on a podcast is when they finish reading a book. This is probably for your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th graders and up. When they finish reading a book to you, like, the motivation to read a book is to get a date with mom, where you get to have tea and they get to tell you their favorite parts of the book and the parts they didn't like and the characters, and you just have a book discussion when they finish the book. That's just a fun thing that I thought was so great, because it incentivizes them, and then we can get together and really I don't know, just talk and connect over a book. So those are some of my incentives, and there's a million more. And again, I'm not always great at them, but it's good to have something for them to look forward to. All right, specific behaviors. So crying. Have your kids ever cried? Whew, that happens a lot, expected a lot, especially when maybe they're used to one style of learning and you're bringing them another. There's a lot of learning that goes on. And when you're in a mob of 30 kids, it's a lot easier to figure it out, what's the correct behavior. When you're home and it's just 2 or 3 of you, and crying happens and it's frustrating as a mom, I will dismiss a child and say, hey, go to your room. It's okay if you're frustrated or crying, but you can come back into this classroom when you're showing self-control and when you can tell me what's wrong with your words. And then I try as a mom, again, to take a step back and look, what is really going on? Did I just introduce a bit of math that is complicated to them, that they can't really understand, that is overwhelming them? Or, you know, there's a lot of factors. Are they hungry? Sometimes they're hungry by like 10, 15, and you feed them and they're like new children, or what, you know, whatever that looks like. So that's often what I do for crying is I want them to know that it's safe for them to cry, but in my classroom or at the table or whatever, they can dismiss it so that they're not distracting the other children, take it to their room and come back. And then it's just going to make their day longer. So when they say, I'm not doing that because you're not my teacher. I've heard that from a couple of my friends who jumped into homeschooling in March or whenever the shutdown happened. I think it's important to say, you're right, I did not choose this. I get to be your teacher. I agree with you. This is hard. It's hard for all of us. We're all learning. And then tell them, you know what? I'm a parent. Okay, so I'm a parent of parenting with love and logic. So say if you don't want to do your work, that's fine, but you will not be going to so-and-so's house, you won't be doing sports practice, and you really won't be leaving this home until you're done with your work. And just making it clear, unemotional. And I have one child in particular who constantly is pushing those buttons and not wanting to do their work. And if it's just, they know that life is going to be worse and school is going to take longer if they just drag it out, then that's fine. I have done Saturday school before. If they cancel a whole day of my week and I feel like it's strictly attitude based and not behavioral, like emotional, like they're not dealing with, you know, frustration in a different way. If I feel like it's just a power struggle, I'll give them busy work on Saturday that I don't have to monitor. So I think the biggest thing for you is setting your boundaries to where you're not doing school past 3, you're not doing school till 7 p.m. just to get it done. If they have to do work past 3, it's on them. If they have to push it to Saturday, modify it so you don't have to be a part of it. But if you don't let them get away with it over a couple days, they will start to learn that you mean business and you're not going to jump in the fight with them, but it's a standard. This is where I've gotten my husband involved before. I think when our husbands jump in and say, look, she's your mom, but when she's in the classroom, she's your teacher and you need to show her the same respect. We've had to do that. So that's just a little something. And then again, go to your friends, ask God for wisdom, ask your friends to pray for you and to help you and brainstorm, because it's tricky. And every kid is different. What's going to work for my oldest is not going to work for my youngest, and vice versa. So when they don't give their best, okay, so if it's handwriting, if it's sloppy math, if it's whatever, My dear friend Sarah, she is a big emphasizer of best effort, best attitude. And best teachability. She just added to that. I haven't used that one yet. So I love the idea of if they turn in something that is beautiful, like the best handwriting ever, I will put it in a sheet protector and I will hang it on the wall. And if they turn in something that's less than that, I will say, hey, can you go just check and see if this is good, better, or best? Your best is shown up here. I have your best work in this thing. So you just check, and we always give our best effort, our best attitude. And so they know what they're capable of. Then it reminds them what they can do. And sometimes that helps them shift. I mean, you might get the eye rolls, the whatever, but it helps them see like, oh, I can do better than this, even though it feels like I can't. And then just a little bit more about good, better, and best. So I've drawn it out for them multiple times, and I'll ask them questions. So instead of telling them like, this is just good or this is less than good work, I'll have them self-analyze. So you know what good is for you, you know what better is, and you know what your best work is. Where do you think this falls? Where would you put yourself on this? So that helps them to go, okay, I could do better. And then I would say, if they say, oh, this is good, maybe better, I'd say, okay, well, do you think you should go and improve it? And give the responsibility on them, because most of the time they'll say yes, and then they'll go do it. And you never had to tell them anything of what to do. So that's just a little hint. With regards to writing, my sweet friend Candace Dirksen gave me the most beautiful and awful word picture, but she said, don't kill the puppy. So when they turn in their paper that they've worked super hard on, and you mark it up with red, and every sentence has 5 spelling errors and a punctuation error and 2 capitalization errors, you are ruining their love for writing. And I am super guilty of this. So this is something I am working on as well. Pick whatever it is you want them to work on for that day, and specifically in writing, and go with that. So if this week it's just spelling, like pick a couple 5 spelling errors and just work on that, especially in the 3rd grade or maybe even 4th grade, where you're not just red inking their whole paper. So keep that in mind. And then I think one of my favorite ones of behavior, and Sandy Tarosian has been the recipient of this, is I will charge my my son in particular for wasting my time. So Sandy is a tutor for our phonics, and if he gives her a bad attitude and he wastes her time, I will make him pay, and I've given her permission to pay her for her time, because it's just at times gotten that bad. And so that's a great way for them to take ownership. If you're going to waste her time, I'm not paying for it, you're paying for it. So it doesn't have to be a big price, but 25 cents could still change an attitude. So I think that is all that I had prepared. Were there questions?
Yes,
okay.
Questions.
All right, so we have some questions, and Sarah and I are both going to answer these.
Okay.
So
First one is, how long do the lessons last, or how many hours per day do you think you spend homeschooling total?
okay, so this is a great question. I think the classic idea is for whatever age your child is, and I had this in my notes, I think I skipped over it. For whatever age or grade your child is in, that's how many hours. So if you have a 1st grader, you really don't need to go over more than an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. 2nd grader, 2, maybe 3. I've kind of always pushed it on the longer end, but you don't need to go past that. So I spend 7:30 to noon. I have never gone over noon unless it was like something on my scheduling or something slowed us down. But in terms of curriculum, I've always kept it before lunch, and then we do something fun after lunch. This year, going into 4th grade, I think we'll probably push past lunch. But
older one will.
For my older one, for my 4th grader. But I don't see a younger grade, a 3rd grader, needing to really go past lunch. And if you are, then look at stuff and say, okay, where could I maybe cut out, or why is something taking too long? So.
Okay. Are you facilitating the subjects at the beginning of each week, or is it bookwork?
Okay,
It varies.
I think it varies. So, for example, my math curriculum, I put the DVD on, put the DVD on for 10 minutes, and then they do maybe 20 minutes of math work. And then the second day they'll do their own. So then it would turn into independent work where they're doing probably 30 to 45 minutes of math. Math usually takes the longest, depending on what it is. And then they'll do that each day until they take the test on Friday. I don't know.
Speak on that.
Yes.
And I know for myself, I tend to be easily distracted with the phone or emails or texts. So doing what Ali said, as far as setting the phone aside, and then about 2 years ago, I just took on the mentality of butt in seat, meaning my butt needs to be in the seat next to my kids, even if there's times that I am bored and I'm not necessarily facilitating, because it makes me present with them. Even if I sit and read a book, is different than being on the phone. So yes, as they go through, like if we're done with our morning curriculum or activities that we all do together, and my son was in second and my daughter was in sixth, so they're pretty several years apart, but there are still things we can do together with history or geography or science. We can do those things together. My daughter could go deeper into those topics where he wouldn't. They might have different worksheets. And then after that, they would start their own stuff. My daughter would be pretty independent doing math. She might have a question or two, whereas I would facilitate my son, but I was available and sitting there with them. And so that actually helped us finish on time most days. And then when I was distracted or not very present or more of a taskmaster, it actually made the days take longer because there was more frustration.
Absolutely.
I am looking into public and private homeschool options. What are the benefits or downfalls of either?
Is that public or private? I don't quite know what that means. Like, I don't know what that means. I may have to have.
I guess if I were to answer that, I would say I would talk to somebody that maybe does private school. I'm not sure. Did they actually leave for COVID? I thought they continued.
I don't know. And I don't know if that's referring to like a charter school, because currently charter schools are closed. They passed a law last year that decreased the budget so that it couldn't increase year after year based on demand. So this year they're working with the same budget.
Yeah, she's referring to charters.
As last year, but they have about 5,000 extra kids wanting to join in the Fresno area. So they're not going to deplete the funding for each of the kids who are already in the charter. So unfortunately, that was passed in our state bills in this last year. So we just don't know. And is this Kyle? Kyle, is that you that's saying you can help answer that?
It is.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so hi, my name is Kyle. I used to work for the homeschool charter, so I think I can help with this. Allie's right, the charters are mostly full. You may be able to find, a one-off that will take you, but chances are pretty slim. So the big things with charters versus private, my internet's going out. Charters, the plus is going to be that typically you're going to receive funding to purchase curriculum, maybe some extra activities. The negative is you have oversight. So for some families, they don't want to be checking in with a teacher, submitting work, having someone to answer to. Oh, sorry, 1 second. I think I'm losing my connection. 1 minute, please.
We can hear you great, Kyle. Oh no,
So the oversight in a charter school, I'll wait till she comes back. The oversight in a charter school looks like I have a teacher who checks in on me, who I meet with once a month, and that is monitoring my child's progress. She knows what curriculum I'm using. When we do state testing, she'll go over the state testing with me. And so that's the type of oversight. When you do private, I think now that I understand the question better, you're filing on your own, you're keeping your own attendance, you're keeping your own grades for the older schools. And so it's less oversight. It's not hard to file your affidavit, but so I think that may touch on the answers. And Kyle, when you come back, if you have more to add.
I'm here. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm in rural Pennsylvania. So sometimes we don't know what's going to happen. So yes, you're right. So that's the deal with charter. And then with private, I guess the plus would be, and again, it depends from family to family, kind of what their priorities, preferences, might be. But with private, you receive no funding from the state, but you are also on your own. You answer to nobody. So, with my own kids, we've done both. When I was employed by the charter, I had my kids on my roster. Now I don't work for the charter, so now we're back to private again. So it's really just kind of a preference, but again, for most people who either are listening to this or who are trying to get started in homeschooling right now, you're not really going to have an option. You're going to need, well, that's not true. You're probably not going to have the option to be with a charter. There are 3 other ways you can legally homeschool in California, but chances are your best bet is going to be just to go private. And I saw in the chat box, Lisa Michael, Inspire is not private. So any charter school is considered a public school. Mm-hmm. So that's not private. When we say that you are going private, we mean that you're filing with the state of California. So you are informing the state of California that you are in fact your own private school, which sounds scary, but it's really not. So you are informing them it's not an application. They don't accept or deny you. You just tell them, this is what I'm doing. You file your paperwork in October. It doesn't cost anything. And you keep, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I think 4 documents. You create 4 documents. There are websites that'll walk you through how to create them, and you print them out, you put them in a file, and you put them in your drawer, and you really don't look at them ever again. So hopefully that helps.
I know there is a lot of questions specifically about the legality of it. And I wonder if it wouldn't be more appropriate to do even Kyle. I know Kyle is very knowledgeable on this, and I wonder if it might even be more appropriate to do like a second Skype or whatever this is, Zoom for that. In terms of your kids being on track, I wouldn't even worry about that. What is on track anymore? I think each kid learns at their own pace. If you're presenting them information, the most important thing you can do is teach your child to love to learn. When our children love to learn, I'm not going to use the parts of an atom in my nursing career or doing most other jobs. But if I'm curious and I love to learn, that's the attribute you're wanting to teach your child. So I saw a couple questions about keeping your kids on track. I wouldn't even stress about that. If you're in the ballpark, if you're challenging them, if you're one step ahead of them so it's not too easy, and find stuff that they love, that they're interested in, and run with it, you're teaching them to be curious, to ask questions, and to love learning. So I hope that answers.
And so I have a little experience with that because we have homeschooled the last 5 years, but last year my daughter actually did go to public school for a hybrid program for a little bit, and I had always been burdened with the stress of oh my gosh, my daughter's going to be behind, or I just didn't do enough. And I realized she was absolutely fine, and honestly, well, probably a couple years ahead of just the maturity wise of just being able to write and ask questions, present stuff in front of the class. Like there was a different confidence there. And this year she's actually going back to school, which is homeschool. She's going to Alta Sierra for junior high, but yay, she'll be back home with me. So she's not totally happy about that. But I'm not worried about it at all, because she has learned and is still learning how to, you know, ask questions of the teacher, you know, figure things out on her own. And yeah, so, and with the grades okay, so I had to register her with Alta Sierra Public School. They asked for nothing as far as grades, nothing. So it was way easier than I thought. I never asked for a report card from our charter school. We always had the option, but I was like, no problem. They signed her up, done. And even I learned through junior high that they are given grades, but their grades don't count towards them at all. It's not until high school. So I don't know if that helps answer anything.
Yeah.
With that.
We had a couple questions about,
I'll answer this one.
which one?
This one, then you can chime in because you also work too.
Okay.
So this question is, how realistic is it to homeschool when both parents work outside the home? I definitely would say that would be challenging. Mm-hmm. I actually did work outside the home part-time for several years as a strength coach. I'm praying I didn't do too much damage to my children because I was crazy mom and it was very task oriented and there wasn't a huge love of learning because I was just constantly, we got to get this done because we got to leave at this time. And then we get back home and you got to sit down, you got to finish your work, or they were bringing their work with them. And I'd honestly have other students help them do their work. But moving forward, I've actually reached out to a couple of neighbors that I know both parents work full time and offered to help. So if you do work full time, reach out to somebody that you know, or think that, you know, you could even pay them, you know, aside, you know, it's kind of like a daycare thing. Like if there was a small group that a mom could take and just help facilitate school, that's an option because these are different times. They're crazy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are not choosing this and they can't do it. So I have offered to help with a couple of neighbors where their kids can come to our house, you know, and do their school while they're at work. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would second that. I worked a couple days a week, not full time. And I think I did a couple different things. I had a college age student come and be with my kids one day a week when I worked one day a week. And it worked out great. She knew the kids, she helped them through it. And then the other thing is find a parent. You know, I think our businesses, hopefully a lot of them are really willing to work with us during this season. That you might, if you can, work from home, if there's that option. And so if you find a family that kind of lines up with yours, switch days. If you work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe you could switch off and watch their kids a couple days. She watches your kids a couple days, and then you hire somebody in the middle. You know, there's ways to be really creative with that. And then, yeah, so I think, I mean, obviously it's very hard. I found myself asking in my situation where I didn't necessarily have to work. I know that's a huge blessing, but is it worth it for all the planning I do for that day? And I wrestled with that a little bit. So yeah, I don't know if that helps. So for hiring a tutor, there's a couple ways. If you're with a charter, you can have them come under, like, I'm with Inspire. I can pay through Inspire if they fill out the paperwork. I know the paperwork can be tricky for that, but I paid out of pocket for my tutor, and I paid by day. So I didn't necessarily pay by hour. She just knew she could bring her schoolwork and do it if they were working quietly or were on break. So I kind of worked it out where it was a pay by day situation. So.
Okay. How long do you allocate per subject, and do you hit every subject every day? You can.
Yeah. So touch on that. It really depends on the subject. Math usually takes longer. I say spelling takes 10 to 15 minutes. Language should take 15 minutes. If you're going longer, you're probably doing too much, especially in the earlier grades. what else? Reading, I extend to 30 minutes just because that requires time to learn.
I'd say like science, history, what else? I mean, those, and even geography, I stepped back and I went, okay, if I can get science in once or twice a week, we're good. History in depth, maybe one in depth. So maybe we are reading something deeper, studying geography, watching a video on YouTube, maybe once or twice a week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So math, writing, math facts, spelling, I mean, whatever, those things we're hitting every day.
Yeah. So it really depends on the subject.
Reading.
And for the time allotted, but just remember with the younger kids, keep it short, keep it simple, and they'll actually get more the less wordy and difficult it is. So
yeah.
I
know. Okay, so we just had a current question, but it kind of ties in with what we've asked before. It says, are the online schools and classes with a teacher a good option for working parents? So I do know Clovis Unified is going to go that route. And I know they're trying their best to figure out what that actually looked like. But I think it sounds like they wanted to do some specific teachers that were going to be online teachers and then do the traditional, but obviously that didn't work out. And I know they have a program, like an independent study program, where it is teachers teaching online, but it's been recorded, so it's not live. I think it depends on your child, like how old they are, how independent they are. I did use a math program once. What was the computer one? I can't think of it right now, but I had my daughter do it one year, and it was terrible, only because of her personality. It wasn't holding her accountable, and so we lost a lot by doing that. So that's tough.
Yeah, if your kid's gonna bounce off or play with something, or I'm a advocate for less screen time. I think when you're engaging, they're seeing, they're touching, they're even smelling or speaking, where they're doing their mouth and all the senses all at once. I feel like my kids learn more. And I know that's elementary school teachers would say that as well. So when you're just visually watching, it's a little bit harder. That's my opinion, but I know every family stuff works different. Subjects easiest for the whole family, especially for the kids a grade or two apart. So this year I have been really intentional about combining spelling and language. So I've done language together my whole time. But for spelling specifically, I feel like you can easily combine that, give their lesson. If you need to make words harder or easier, if they're learning about, say, I don't know, Sandy, where's a good example? If they're learning about OW, ow, oh, right? So how, or cow, or you could give longer words for your bigger kids. You could give them the same spelling lesson and have two different spelling lists. So spelling would be one that you could do together. History you could do together. Science you could do together. So you really can combine a lot of things, and just, you're doing history. If you're doing history together, your older kid maybe writes 3 sentences, your younger kid colors a map about whatever you're learning if you have a preschooler. So they're still listening to the lesson and being a part of it. It's just in a different capacity. And I do feel like the more you can do together, the more sane you will be. Yeah. Which is really important.
Yeah. So on that note, I mean, we touched on that, and Allie just said that again, like, this will be my 6th year homeschooling, and every year I've done less, if that makes sense. I was really hyped up the beginning, and there's just so much good stuff out there, and it was just too much. I would say if you're diving into homeschooling for the first time, I would say definitely keep it as simple as possible. You can always add to it. So, but if you start yourself out the way I did, which was just so excited, but too much, I felt like I was failing every single day. And so there are curriculums where literally it has it all in one, and just do it all in one. And then if you see something that's like, hey, I would like to go a little bit deeper in history, let's read the story of the world together, or whatever, you can add that in versus feeling like you're not finishing the specific topics each day, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There was another question about community. Where do I find a community? What are good recommendations for communities? And I would say it depends on who you are. If you have, I always say find people with a similar homeschool philosophy. So if you're a mom who's going to be up at 7:30, it's probably not a great partnership to pair with somebody who's kind of like a relax. They're going to start whenever they start. Their kids roll out of bed at 10, or it just might not fit as well. So if you're, I would assess that as well. Look in your neighborhood. If you have kids who are homeschooling that are from your actual school, a lot of you are public school people. Yeah. Look there. They already have established relationships. They're already used to playing on the playground and transitioning to doing school. So that might be a great partnership. Look in your churches. If there's people that you have gone to church with and you could figure that out. I know for us, I've done a number of co-ops. I did classical conversations for I think 4 years. And then last year we did Claritas. Those are a little bit more involved. Those communities, I guess I'll just touch on them. So there's an element of memory work. We meet every Tuesday, go through memory work, which involves like a history sentence. So for example, the one I can think of is the Anasazi of the southwestern United States built adobe villages on the sides of the cliffs from 500 BC to 1200 AD. So I memorized that with my kids a couple years ago, and they memorized that each week, a history sentence, each week a science fact, each week an English, like a noun is a person, place, thing, activity, or idea. Then they do a couple other activities like a science project or something during that day, that Tuesday day. So that's a co-op where we're cooperating together, I guess. And everybody's contributing. In some of them you pay somebody and some of them you don't. Claritas, which is a very similar backbone for structure in terms of memory work and memorization, is all the moms contribute in teaching. So another great way to do it is to, one mom loves science, one mom loves history, get together on a Tuesday and a Thursday afternoon, and one mom teaches history and one mom teaches science. But don't overcomplicate it. Yeah. We do that. We've been in homeschool for a long time, and it's something that we're used to, and it's just a part of our day, and we incorporate it, and it's, but it can feel very overwhelming, especially just kind of throwing yourself into it in the same way that you guys are kind of throwing yourself in. So,
I'm chiming on that.
Yep.
My sister-in-law also homeschools in Louisiana, and her co-ops have looked similar, but also they've just been play dates. So they've been park dates. I know these times are very different now because not everything is just open like it used to be. But it could be that, you plan a park day with a few other people every Thursday or something, just to have some outing. Again, it's whatever your family is comfortable with. But yeah.
That's great.
This is a good one. What price range per kid should I be ready for each curriculum? So can I start with that? And
yes.
Then we can chime in. I would say it doesn't have to be a lot. So there are, one, I would get on different curriculums, check them out. This is going to take the most time, is searching, looking at pictures online, looking at examples, reading through it, seeing what's going to be a fit, and then going, okay, what does this cost? Like, for example, I bought the Bookshark or the Sunlight curriculum for history. I knew what it cost off the website, but I'm not going to pay that. So I go and I shop eBay until I find the deal at which I am willing to pay for it. So really everything out there you can find used.
Mhm.
And for math curriculum, I always buy brand new. My math curriculum, Saxon isn't that much, maybe $70. So I don't know, a few hundred.
Yeah,
It
I
just
would say
depends.
couple hundred. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many resources, like even history. There's so much online, Khan Academy. There's stuff like that you can pull from that's free. If price point is a struggle, then again, that's something like I'd totally be willing to talk to you about resources and recommendations for that.
Okay, and so on that note, like you can sign up on Khan Academy, I think for free, and literally do your grade math every day. They have testing on there, they have quizzes. My daughter used it just to brush up on certain topics. So that is a great resource there. You can go to Teachers Pay Teachers, and I did link all of those links on earlier up in the chat. That is a great place to say, hey, I need 6th grade history lesson plan. And you will have some amazing resources there that will even give you the links to go to on this day, show this video on YouTube. And so they have done the lesson planning for you. That's huge, because I am not one to love lesson planning. I kind of take the work of what either programs have done or people have done on Teachers Pay Teachers, and then I just assign it on what days we're going to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I yelling?
No, that's good. We have to be loud. Sorry if I'm yelling. I don't know. I'm going to check the volume. I saw, what was that one? All-in-one program. So we're going to link up. We wrote a list. Did you put at the very top of the chat? There's a list of good all-in-one programs. And maybe we should put on that thing that Candace Dirksen put on. Yeah. So we'll add one more picture of that. Facebook has great groups. Yep, I like that comment. Okay, yeah, finish that one, sorry. Okay, so I have one more resource. Anne Casado, do you mind putting your contact information up here? Anne has taught, she's a veteran. She's graduated kids. She has kids in high school, and she's just a great resource. She can answer questions about all the things, and including like how to file stuff for affidavit and all the different things. So I know she used all-in-one curriculum. She might be another great one to ask about those. And yeah, I think overall, just know that there's a group of moms out here that are willing to help and answer questions, and that you're not alone in this journey. And it's a wonderful, beautiful, blessed journey. So I don't see any more questions. So if you have questions, great, we'll keep answering them. I have so for those of you who are late, I have this recorded. I will post it probably on Facebook. I don't know if I want all this out there. I don't know. Or I can send you a link, message me, and I will send you a link. So yeah.
Hold on, don't close it yet, because I'm trying to link this.
We are adding up a couple more links to this, so if you want to stick I'll just go over a couple of the resources if you want to hang around for those things. I love, Worksheet Works. If you want to print, so this is from Worksheet Works. I can come up with their own copy work if I want them to write. My mom is the best teacher in the whole wide world. I think she should teach me every day, whatever. Like you can write whatever you want and it'll print it. It'll do cursive. It does math facts. I have my kids do math facts like this in these little sheet protectors. So Worksheet Works is great. It's completely free, and I supplement a lot with worksheetworks.com. That's in our resources on there. Super Teacher Worksheets is another good one. You have to pay for those, or pay for a subscription, like it's $20 membership or something, but you can get pretty much anything for any grade on there. So that's a really good one if you want a cheap homeschool and to do a lot of prep. Super teacher worksheets. I purchase a lot of my resources through rainbowresource.com. They have all the math stuff. It's just like any kind of resource you would want, markers, whiteboards, whatever you want. Rainbow Resource. And then I think I already said this, but I get these awesome art picture study things from charlottemason.com. It's kind of a unique one. It like goes through, you hold up a picture and then you talk to your kids about it, and it kind of talks about it gives a biography of the painter and talks about each picture and like highlights things to look at. Why was Mary's garments always blue? Or the halos around their head, stuff just to appreciate and notice things. So that's another website. Oh yes, Sarah's gonna share her schedule stuff with you. Actually, let me just finish this up.
Yep.
My last resource. Podcasts. I love podcasts. There are women who have gone before, who are wise, who will calm your soul, your heart, your spirit, because they've seen it, they've done it, they've walked it. And so I know there's more out there. I love Scholé Sisters. I love Pam Barnhill, Your Morning Basket. That's where I learned a lot about morning time. The Read Aloud Revival will give you great ideas for read alouds and books to read with your kids. There's book lists for like a 4th grade boy who loves war. You could get a book list of things to write. So that's readaloudrevival.com, and she has podcasts. One of my favorite books that changed my homeschool career is Teaching from Rest. And it's a lot about just making sure my cup is full so that I can really give my kids what they need in a positive way. So those are my last resources. And then I'm gonna let Sarah do her scheduling.
So somebody asked about scheduling, if they could see a personal schedule. This is going to look different for every single person. I know for myself, this last year, by year 5, I realized I don't leave my room until I am ready for the day. That means makeup on, hair did, which usually doesn't mean much, dressed appropriately, which is usually workout clothes, let's be real. But once I leave my bedroom, I'm done for the day. Because if I meander out there and I get coffee and then the kids are up, my schedule is gone and nothing, like there's no routine, and they take advantage of that. That's just our house. So for me, any planner works. I do a passion planner. I don't like to have multiple planners. So all my kids stuff, school, everything is in one. Should I show you up here? I guess I can show you up here. Okay, this is kind of personal now. So, so here's my planner. I actually highlight, like in yellow is when we do school. So yellow time is my butt is in the seat with my kids doing school. Okay, so there was times I had to pick up a neighbor girl and I would schedule that in. Raina had tutoring. I would actually create a highlighter for each child. So any of my daughter's activities would be in blue. My son's activities would be in orange. I'd also schedule in my workout time. Me time would be green. Okay, so that would either be post lunch time for kids, where they could play and be outside and do their PE while I got a little home workout in. So you can break it down however you want. So it does sync. I think of this as my job. Like, it's hard because it is at home. And that's why when Allie said to keep those weekends free is really, really important, because burnout is a real thing when you are at home all the time with your children. And your roles meld. Like
Mhm.
you're not just mom and you're not just teacher, but now you're like trying, it's hard. It's a battle. So I just made sure I get up early, but if it's 5:30 or 6, and it's not necessarily to work out, it's to get myself ready, have my quiet time, have my coffee before the day begins. And then the kids have an alarm, and they are required within between 7 and 8 to get all their chores done. They have to do their 5, which is, brush your teeth, make your bed, get dressed, do your chores, which is changes in a list. Some of them feed dogs, water plants, vacuum. One of the kids vacuums every day because we have dogs, and then eat breakfast. And then we start school at 8 o'clock. And then I schedule in the snack time. So just like in public school, I think that's really important. If it's 10:15, it's 10:15, and we break no matter what, 20 minutes, and then have a snack, come back. And it's hard in the house because the kids will want to get up and be like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, it's not snack time yet. That's in 15 minutes. You can wait. So it's hard. I mean, that's the setting the boundaries ahead of time, telling your kids what to expect. Like, hey, we're going to run this like a schedule on the weekdays. There's school days. This is when you can have a snack. And then I actually had to do at a point where the kitchen was closed at 8 a.m. Like if they're not sitting down to eat breakfast, well, they're going to miss breakfast, because if I just keep the kitchen open until they're ready to eat, well, then we don't start school on time. And then it's just, the schedule's gone. And then we break at a certain time for lunch, whether they're done or not, to make sure that they get the break, because they, just like us, we need that break, even if they're not done. And like Allie said, sometimes that might mean they do school later in the day. But if I can step out of that roller coaster mess and just let them, have that consequence, they go, man, I could have finished that so much faster if I would have just had a good attitude. It's like, yeah, totally, buddy, maybe next time. So I hope that helps with the schedule.
One other thing I would say on that is, so if my daughter, for example, she's right now working over the summer on some math stuff, and I see that she understands the concept. She's mastered it. Move on. You don't have to do 75 problems on the same thing. If they've mastered it, move on. If my kids give me 2 days in a row where they spell all their spelling words correct, I don't make them do the spelling test on Friday. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But if they've shown mastery of anything, feel free to move them on to the next subject. So if that means finishing your math weeks a couple weeks early, great. They have earned it and they've worked hard for that. So don't just stick to the rules because you got to check all the boxes. I think that's been a really kind of tricky thing for me because I'm a box checker. So feel free to, on some days I just cross off the odd problems or the even problems or whatever, so they only have to do half of them. So yeah. I don't see any other questions. Is there anything else from anybody that we could answer?
I guess just reach out. If you do have a question about something, send either of us messages on Facebook or text. And, it can feel really overwhelming. Have grace for yourself and just really keep it simple. I wish I would have taken that advice early on, to keep it simple, read aloud, not be so type A. And it took me 5 years to go, oh, less is more, just go a little deeper. And it really is fun.
Yeah. My first year, one of our good friends was a teacher, and he said, there's this little diagram that you're so excited and you run into August and it's just great and everything's wonderful. And by October, everything's terrible. Your kids don't want to listen to you. And it's like, and you hit this low point. And then Christmas makes it a little better. And then January comes and you don't want to go back because you've been on break. And so you expect your first year to be this roller coaster of emotions where it's tricky and slightly painful at times, but try to really allow yourself to see the beautiful moments and the wonderful things. And if you go for a walk and you look at the leaves and you pull a leaf off the tree and you see the veins in the leaf and you enjoy the sun and you talk about why did God create this and how, like, that is school. That can, if on a hard day, on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when your day was so hard, Friday can be a walk in the park and an observation day and a drawing journal, and just enjoy the process and don't kill yourself trying to accomplish and achieve and make it look like a traditional school day, because it's not traditional school. It's not the same. So I just want to leave you guys with that. I encourage you to reach out for my sweet friends who, did we lose connection? I'm seeing a couple. For my sweet friends who just need encouragement, please contact us. You have all our Facebook stuff and we can walk you through stuff. So I will figure out how to post all this or do something. I don't know. I'm sure I can. That's
art classes.
Okay, art classes.
There's a few different people.
Yeah, so I use someone called Sona Atoyan. She's a watercolor artist. She's wonderful, strict, and teaches the kids a lot of things. I know there's I forget what it's called. The Hendersons out in, they do like every week, kind of, or a couple times a week, out by like Maroa and Ashland or something at her house. I don't know, maybe other.
Okay, there are also lots of YouTube or Facebook groups. So, I mean, if you get on there and just probably search Fresno Clovis area homeschool groups or art classes, or I mean, Chefa, CHEFA.
Yeah.
If you go to their website, I mean, they have links for so many tutors and people that you can, pay for services with art and history and science and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and I linked to Chefa's website in all the links at the beginning of the page. So, yeah. All right, ladies. Well, it's been wonderful. And Anne, did you ever put your contact info on here? Or should we message people individually?
I have done some individually because I
perfect.
got some private questions. I don't see where to put because I think I'm stuck on a few of the private ones right now.
I can help.
Simple. I can just tell you. Or if you could find a place to type it.
Sure. Tell us and we'll type it in.
Okay. My email is annclovis@comcast.net. No E for Anne.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, ladies. Yes. Well, God bless you all, and we'll reconvene.
Thank you.
Yep.